looks like, you can hear her already. But if you want to know what she looks like, you can just log on and watch us on YouTube. You'll search for Double Nine Radio TV or Double Nine Radio, all one word, on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch us live directly on there as well. So, Chrissy, so that's the that's it. We're talking about for better for worse. Should it be at all cost? I mean, it's a question, isn't it? It's a question. I'm sure a lot of us have in our mind.
Well, so before we delve deep into this subject of for better and worse, first you got to get married or be in a long term situation. However, based on some statistics, I have found that there's a higher divorce rate when a wife becomes ill in a relationship. So there's been a few studies that have been done. A 2009 study published in Cancer, it should be Cancer found that on cancer found that when a woman's diagnosed with a serious illness such as cancer or multiple sclerosis, excuse my pronunciation, they're 6 times more likely to experience divorce or separation than men with the same illness. So basically, if you're a female and you have a partner, your partner's more likely to leave you during illness than if you were a male.
Hmm.
And then in 2015, the Journal of Health and Social Behaviour analysed 2,700 partners over 20 years of marriages and 20 years of people being married. And they found that, again, when a wife falls ill with cancer, heart disease, lung disease, or stroke, the likelihood of divorce increases significantly.
Hmm.
So, why is this the case?
I mean, I think the first question I want to ask: are you sure it's not a woman that carried out that survey or that research? Is it a woman or?
It's a journal, so it's probably done by a mixture.
Oh my God! I can hear the tone. It's coming from me, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a journal. How can you say, oh, it's a woman that did this?
Um, because I mean, it's quite surprising to find out or to hear from you that this journal actually weighs more on the female side. That men are more like more likely to ask for divorce if a woman's ill. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I don't know if it's what we hear a lot. We hear more of like if a woman you know has a husband that has got a bit of illness, sometimes they tend to want to ask for that divorce because they don't want to be once caring for that man, so to say. But it's quite
Repeat that again. Say that again one more time. I didn't quite grasp what you're saying.
my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in trouble. This is here.
No, no, I just want you to repeat it to clarify what you're saying before I respond.
I mean, I'm saying what's been said in a public domain
Mm-hmm.
is most times, as we hear, it's females that would want to request for the divorce when maybe a man falls ill or has this chronic diseases you pointed out. So I'm just saying I'm a bit surprised at this journal you mentioned. That's why I question who actually wrote that journal.
Okay, I don't have the statistics of who wrote the journal. I can find out, but I would imagine that it was done scientifically.
Okay.
So they've used some scientific backing for it to be in a journal. I
Hmm.
don't have the facts. Excuse me. I don't have the facts about who wrote the journal. However, based on what you said, women are historically known as caregivers. So the natural instinct for women is to take care of a man or woman. I mean, a man, their children, their family.
Hmm.
So if someone falls ill, they're more likely to look after that person and care for that person. Whereas men aren't necessarily bestowed the rights of caregiving. It's not something which is ingrained into you at a young age that you have to care for other people in that way, the same way that women are kind of socialized to care.
Mm.
So, under those circumstances, the burden of caregiving isn't necessarily a de facto point perspective that a man's going to take. Therefore, it's not his responsibility because, in some cases, marriage is obviously, well, not all the time, but sometimes a lot of the care and the care, duty of care is the woman towards the man, and not always the man is reciprocating.
Okay. I agree when you say women are more aligned to be caregivers. which is correct. I agree. Also, we just need to clarify as well. Uh, we're not just referring to just marriages alone. We have people who live together; they're not married, and
Hmm.
they do count as well. Um, but I'll
Okay, so even outside of marriage, if
yeah,
you're in a long-term relationship,
yeah,
falling ill in the UK, it's probably easier because the financial strain that you don't have to pay for medical care.
hmm,
Where in the States, it's probably way more strenuous because you have to pay for medical care. So that is a financial strain on the relationship. So assuming that you don't have private or health cover in the States,
yeah.
that's going to cost you a lot of money to get that person better. Like you got to pay for treatment, everything you have to pay for. In the UK, yes, it's going to have an impact on you unless you've got some sort of income protection.
Yeah,
Then it's still going to impact you because one, your income's going to decline, or you could lose your job because of illness. So that's going to have a financial strain. So on top of you managing an illness, you've also got the added bonus of not having as much income,
hmm,
and it's not cheap to live.
hmm.
So you've got your rent or your mortgage, you've got your bills, you've got your car payments, you've got still got to eat, and then on top of that, you've got to go to hospital appointments. Going to hospital and from hospital frequently is expensive.
I mean, Chrissy, you paint such a bleak picture
It's
of
not a
this.
bleak picture because
Is
some people do
yeah,
manage to do it and they do get the support,
mm,
but some men,
yeah.
which is showing in this study, are not gonna don't want to do it.
Why? Why do you think men don't want to do it?
I'm not a man. I can't answer that question for you.
Oh wow. See, ladies, I'm in trouble.
I
I'm in
am not
trouble.
going to pretend I can. Oh, I'm going to
I
shine my
mean,
magic ball and put my man hat on
mm,
and say, I just don't feel like helping my long-term partner out who's fallen ill. That has
mm.
been there for me for a number of years, and I've decided that when she's fallen ill and she needs me the most, I'm not there. I can't give you an answer for that.
Do we think the culture there's been a culture change in with people, you know, running away from responsibility or trying to help out people, as you describe it, with men especially, is because we think men have more, they think they have more options to go into another relationship. Is it easier for men?
Hmm. So, doing my little deep dive,
Okay.
I went onto YouTube because that's my
Yeah.
go-to place for information,
Yeah.
and there was a recent YouTube video by a gentleman called Politics and Life, American YouTuber. And the comment sections were filled, sorry, his name's the public offender, sorry.
Right.
He's kind of just one of these like commentary people. And his comment section was filled with examples of women talking about how they met a guy, his partner had cancer, she's
Mm,
going through chemotherapy, and he's cheating. Or when the partner passed away, he replaced her within less than a year.
mm.
And this was like going on and on. There was a few really lovely examples of
Yeah.
people talking about their partners, taking care of them and supporting them in the journey, and they're still together. But 80% of the comments were people saying that the partner, husband or long-term partner, had just cheated, or when they passed away, they just replaced them with somebody else.
Do we think we men don't do that?
I think women are probably more emotionally engaged.
Yeah.
So if you're, I don't know, I personally would look after someone. I would like
Yeah.
to think
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it is draining.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's a very difficult topic. Thinking about it, because for better for worse, saying those words, the question today is if for better for worse at any cost. It is quite a challenge when we look at that, aspect or perspective of the conversation coming from the health challenges people encounter. It's almost like a follow on of what we had yesterday. We talked about, when should you share your status? Don't want to go back in today. Just catch up
I thought you meant
on
Facebook status, but then I realized, no, you mean
yeah,
like
she's
you.
got financial status, woman.
No, I
So,
didn't say that. I did
okay,
not even mention anything about financial
okay,
status.
okay, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, the thing about health challenges, you listed out quite a number of things, about the support you need, the expense that comes with it, the commitment, the emotional challenge, and all of that. But the thing here is, for better for worse, um, when you say those words, you don't anticipate or realize anything can happen. But the word is, love should be able to see you through this kind of challenges. I'm quite inclined to agree with you that women could be the better caregivers, but in some aspects as well, we have women who, it's like I'm about to open a can of worms. Maybe I shouldn't. Who would go into relationships with someone who's wealthy, knowing that maybe at some point they're gonna, pass on. But anyway, maybe that's
Oh, so
another.
you're talking about women that go into relationships with older men
Yes,
and then hopefully that they're gonna die, so they end up getting the inheritance.
yes, that happens as well.
Based on the fact that everyone on the internet likes to diagnose someone, I don't know what the actual definition of that would be, but you kind of have to be quite callous to do that. I mean,
Callous is something. Chris, you're trying to get me into trouble.
no, but that's a really long game you have to play because he
Yeah.
like that in itself is that is you're playing a very long game because even the person's 80,
Hmm.
people's lifespan is very old,
It is.
so
It is very
you could
old.
be looking after someone for maybe 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
and then so you're hoping that they pass away and then give you the money,
Hmm.
and notwithstanding they have a family,
That can never. That
the
could
family is going to intercept and say, hold on a minute,
exactly.
you've just come around and you think you're going to collect all our inheritance.
Yeah, that could be a problem. I mean, that's all kind of worms. I'm not gonna go into that too much, but I think on this one, I think I'm very on your side, saying women are better caregivers, and men, yeah, do better. What can I say? You
Men
know,
do better in what?
in trying to be for better for worse. It's easier said than done. Easier said than done. But with the facts you have, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. Honestly, I can't argue.
If this is a
It
competition, I won.
yes, you won. Woo, yes, give her. She won on 100%. Yes. Yes, she wanted that. Let's give her the klaxon sound there. So, okay, let's move on a bit to you know relationships where we've looked at health challenges,
Hmm.
which yes, women will possibly do it at any cost. I think they will stay in there, make sure to take care of the man, making sure he has everything because you know what they've said yes at the altar. Or I mean, not necessarily marriage as well, long-term commitments as well. We have people that live together, they're not married. We're not trying to segregate anyone. It's all inclusive. But when we move on to things around toxic relationships,
Hmm.
and we find, some couples uh, fight, abuse each other. It could be physical, it could be emotional. But do you stay in that relationship because it's for better for worse in that instance, or when do we say it's too much, or when do we say you know it's better to go your separate ways? How do you look at that? How do you get to a point to decide this is it? Because you don't want to go past a certain place where it's now, the damage is just beyond anything you can, repair.
So you're saying, so from what I understand, you're saying is that um,
When is it too much?
when is it too much? Well, that's really dependent on the individual,
Mm,
what someone's their level, what their threshold is, like what are their boundaries. So early on, you could say to someone, my boundary is that if you cheat, I'm leaving this relationship. I'm that's a red flag. I'm
mm,
not gonna. We can't go back from there. Some people can stay. So if you look at someone, for example, that's cheated and they're still together,
mm.
is David and Victoria Beckham. Everyone forgets that he once cheated and she didn't leave.
Yeah, and she cheated as well, but carry on.
Okay, and then
Allegedly.
allegedly, but she did it better than he did because it didn't come out. So
Okay, so he's one came out.
yeah,
Was it proven though?
I don't know. I can't remember. It was like how many years ago? It was like
So allegedly,
allegedly David Beckham cheated on his wife,
we don't know the facts, but yeah.
and then they're still together.
Okay.
So and sometimes it can work.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those sort of things can maintain
Yeah.
and make a relationship stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to remember culturally, France are quite known for having mistresses and wives. So it also depends on the cultural nuances of
Okay, in France.
in
Okay.
France.
Yes.
But if you know that you cannot tolerate your partner being with anyone else outside of yourself, then you have to make that clear in the beginning.
Mm.
And then if it does happen, then you obviously have to decide, is the relationship worth staying or is it worth going? But then you've also got to consider how much you put into the relationship and at
Mm.
what point the person's
Mm.
cheated. If it's like in the beginning stages when you're not official and you're still talking,
Mm.
mm, it's a bit of a grey area. But if
Mm-hmm.
you've been in a relationship for like, and you've said we're exclusive, and the
Mm.
person's cheated within that time frame, then that's something that you have to, each person,
Mm.
male or female, needs to understand what the other person's boundaries are.
Mm-hmm.
And it same would apply for someone being violent
Yeah.
or someone being physically abusive.
Mm-hmm.
You could say if you raise your hands, it doesn't even have to get to the point of hitting. It could be like if you raise your hands, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
Those things are everyone's preference is their own preference. You can't, and
Mm.
it sounds easy to say I'm just going to leave,
Yeah.
but in the process of leaving, you have to remember that humans are emotional beings.
Yeah.
You don't, if you say I'm going to leave, the actual task of leaving is a lot harder than what you're saying. So I can say I'm going to leave, but do I actually do it within the time frame? I said no. It could take me anything from a year to leave,
Yeah.
even though I know the relationship is becoming challenging
Mm-hmm.
and might be toxic. But leaving a toxic relationship, you're obviously got your own voice, the voice of the other person, you've got history together, you've had lived experiences.
Yeah.
You've so just saying I'm going to get up and leave, it is a lot harder than we take it. Like it's not always as easy as black and
Yeah.
white.
It's not as easy as black and white. I mean, I couldn't. I mean, you said everything there, but one thing I'll just bring in is, when we look at relationships, I'm going to bring it into, like, because you mentioned about culture, you mentioned about, you gave an example about France, which is acceptable to have mistresses and things like that. But when we bring it into maybe the African culture,
If he can
I,
afford more than one wife, he will. If he says I want multiple wives
yeah,
and he can afford all the wives, then that's what he's going to do.
yeah, yeah,
I don't agree with it, but it still happens. If someone says they can afford, if you're going behind someone's back
mhm,
and saying to this person over here, you've got a family and you're not telling both parties what it is,
yeah,
that's a whole different ball game. But
is,
if you're saying to someone, I don't know, like Akon, hasn't he got multiple wives? But if you can afford it
mm,
and you're going to treat everyone equally and everyone is on the same page, that's a completely different ball game in
it is,
comparison to someone saying, I'm going to deceive two people
yeah,
in believing that I'm exclusive in
okay.
order for me to have my cake and vomit.
Okay, fine. That's one aspect of it. That if we look at the other side, where the African culture says for better for worse, right? And you have a woman or even a man, in a relationship who's going through, crazy toxic levels, of abuse, of unhappiness, of unsettled in there. The African families or African culture, not generalizing, please. I'm just saying, in most cases, there's always this encouragement of, try and make it work, try and make it work. But when is that too much? Because we are in the Western world now, which is so diluted, which has diluted the culture from, from Ghana, from Nigeria, from South Africa. We've all come, into the diaspora, into, Europe, and we have a mixture of different cultures coming in. But it seems that we've all melted in and adopted the Western world and stuff. And now, when things happen in relationship, the first thing people want to do is, as you mentioned, you want to break up, you want to quit, kind of thing. But is it too quick to do it, to break up? Or do we say the toxic level is too much because African families are, you're or still thinking about your African family as well? I haven't lost you there.
No, you not lost me.
Yeah. So there's two things, right? The European culture says when something happens, even the slightest thing, you go on social media now, people that have lived in, I'll give an example, Nigeria for years, and nothing has been going on. They've had the differences, they've been able to manage it and go
But
through it.
okay, 1 second. So you're implying that European people leave relationships quicker than African people.
I think so.
However, we don't know what kind of suffering the women in Africa have had to endure because we've like African families socialize young girls to be wives.
Okay.
And so and some in some cases European, if you think about why your marriage was created, it was obviously to build bonds between families
Hmm.
and property, etc. But we don't know the because history in Africa is very different to history in Europe. So no one's been documenting women or black women's experience of marriage
Hmm.
post like 50, 60 years. So we're assuming because they've stayed together a long time that these women are happy. We don't
Hmm.
know that for a fact. So to compare like apples and pears, it doesn't work because over here you've got feminism, you've got white women have got a whole different ball game. You're comparing white women predominantly with black women,
Hmm.
and the two are very different. So one, black women have had to like if you're talking about Africa, I haven't lived in Africa, so I
Hmm.
can't say to you, oh, this is what their experience is.
Hmm.
But we assume that they they've stayed because they're happy. We don't know that for a fact. They might have a marriage and they might have a husband, but we don't know what their experiences are inside that marriage to say that they stayed there out of duty and responsibility for the fact that it tarnishes their family name if they leave that relationship. So their family could know that they're being abused
Yeah.
and terrorized, but just out of sheer respect for their family name, they stayed in that
Yeah,
relationship.
that happens. That happens. I'm not disputing that, and I totally agree with that. And you're right. We can't really compare white and the white women and the black women. When we talk about relationships, but can we look at it as the threshold at which you know a black woman would quickly react to certain things, and a threshold where white women would react to certain things as well.
I think
What
the
the
two.
reason
I
the,
think
the
the
reason
two react
the,
in.
the reason I'm saying that, sorry to interrupt you. The reason I'm saying that is, if we look at relationships, I'm hoping we're still on topic. When it's for better for us at any cost. I think, yeah, we're still on there.
Yeah,
So if we look at, you know people who've moved from Africa into the UK, yeah, they've lived a certain way. The threshold. I'm not saying abuse is right. We're not defining any level of abuse now, but there's a certain threshold of, what I mean by threshold is where you accept within that relationship, of maybe the type of arguments you have, the type of discussions you have, the type of respect you have for each other, right? That is how you lived when you're in Africa. But when you moved over to the UK, you now see the threshold in UK is quite different, because in the UK, you have a white couple. The culture is different. The way they interact is different. The way they speak to each other is different. The level of respect is different. I might, the way they interact, for another person saying, "Oh, send out outside," I think that's just disrespectful. But for them, that's respect. But the issue is when the African couples come over here and try to emulate or copy what they see, this affects the threshold of their relationship. Then issues start occurring of people being abused. I'm not saying it's right, but it's because certain things are being copied from a relationship or culture you know nothing about. So this now brings to the turn where we're now having, you know, uh, people recognizing, not recognizing, but experiencing, a higher level of toxic behavior from partners, because they're not used to what the new adoption is. Are you with me?
so you're basically saying African couples come over to the UK.
Not all of them.
Some are coming over
Yeah.
to the UK and they are mimicking what they see as socially acceptable standards.
Yeah.
and then saying, well, oh, I didn't realize I shouldn't tolerate this.
Possibly that, but you know, when you put it like that, you put it like it's a bad thing. What are we talking about? For
I'm
example,
not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just
yeah,
saying, so, because some African relationships are completely healthy and they have mutual respect for each other,
yes,
but there are some relationships, black or white,
yeah,
European or African, where it's like the dynamics between the individuals aren't healthy,
yes, 100%,
regardless of where you are.
yes,
So I don't understand what you're saying. So are you trying to say that it's okay? So when they're coming over, people are losing their culture per se and their values around relationship and adopting more, I don't know, lenient approaches to relationships based on the fact that you have more rights here?
yes. You recognize you have more rights, supposedly more rights.
What's wrong with having more rights?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having more rights, but the thing, the dynamic of your relationship has been in a way of the African way of living, which you've lived okay for a while. I'm not talking about relationships that on the go, domestic abuse, or there's a form of abuse in there, but it's like, for example, the African culture says the man is the head of the house, right? I know, right? Head of the house. The woman, prepares the food and all of that stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying, when they come over, they can't, find a way to make that work for both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing here is because men have egos, isn't it? Then a woman is now trying to impose a new regime because they're now in a different, you know.
Okay, firstly, if you're in Africa,
Hmm.
more than likely the husband is providing for the whole family.
Hmm.
So the woman is at home, she might have a housekeeper, and then she's rearing and she's raising the children.
Not in
So,
all cases,
not
but
in all
yeah.
cases, but
Hmm.
in some cases.
Yeah.
So she's looking after the children, but she doesn't have to go to work. So she doesn't necessarily, she isn't like, there's not an emphasis on her to work like you have to work
Yeah.
here in Europe.
Hmm.
So if she's in Africa, more than likely the husband's able to sustain herself
Hmm.
and also support her family as well.
Hmm.
So yes, to some extent, a duty is that you will probably be have to cook and clean
Yeah.
and support like the maintenance of the house and also in the child rearing. In the If you come over to the UK, that dynamic completely changes. Both of you are more than likely going to have to work. So then to say to someone, oh, along with you working a 40-hour job and I'm doing a 40-hour week, I'm expecting you to cook and clean and look after the children. And so this one partner is working 40 hours. You come home and you're just putting your feet up, relaxing, and the wife is doing the same 40 hours.
Yeah.
She's looking after your children,
Hmm.
like the children. She's cooking for the children, yourself, and the one who's got his feet up.
Right.
And you're saying that she doesn't have. It's
No, no, you're going to the extreme.
no, but
I
the logic is that
yeah.
the circumstances in the environments are two different environments.
Mm,
One environment allows for one person, you can potentially live off one person's income,
mm.
just
In a
but
different
in
environment. Yeah.
different environment.
Yeah.
But if they come over here, the rules of the game are different. The cost of the money aspect completely changes
Okay, that's fine.
and the dynamics change.
I agree.
And at the same time,
Because
that's where the abuse appears.
because of that dynamic change, yeah, yes, the abuse can occur, but because of that dynamic change, the level of respect is reduced. So men thrive. A man's language of love
Hmm.
language mostly is respect. So now, because the dynamic has changed, and the man seems to be, almost providing the same as a woman. In most cases, women still say, my money is your money, my money is my money, and your money is our money. You know, the respect level changes, which then inevitably then starts to go down the line of, the toxic abuse, and all that self-respect going down the line. But now, when we get to that stage, I think, you know, they need to come together and have a conversation about it and have conversations on how to repair that. But that doesn't happen in society. This is where I'm going back to where the family comes in, because what happens is
The
either
family will act as a mediator.
yeah, in some cases, or the family acts as more fuel to the fire, basically saying, you can't listen to, um, you can't listen to him, or she can't listen to her, vice versa. But here is now, all this is happening, going on and forth kind of thing. At what point do we think and say to them, you know what, is it best to go your separate ways or try and work things out?
So then moving over, if hypothetically you've got a family who's moved over here, if they don't communicate,
Yeah.
obviously the situation will get worse, and then
Hmm.
people will feel like they've been taken advantage of, because the toll on you mentally having to do everything while one person is doing 90% of the work and someone else is doing 10% of the work is going to have a mental strain on someone, and it is going to impact how you feel about your partner.
Mm.
It could be the man's doing 90%, or either way, the dynamic is that it's not a fair share.
Yeah, men do most of the time, isn't it? But yeah.
I don't know that because my dad was he did a lot, so I can't really say. To me, it just if there's duties, it's like you don't have to do everything.
Mm.
Someone might be really good at cooking, and someone might be really good at cleaning, and then to be in a house where you don't really support the rearing of your children isn't helpful
No, it's
to
not.
women or the child.
Hmm.
So yeah, she's going to be upset. Why should she stay? If she's doing majority of the work and you're not supporting her, you're actually adding a burden onto her. So maybe she tells you to get out, then you should get out.
Mm.
Because it's not fair on the woman.
So there should be no unconditional commitments.
It's not that it shouldn't be unconditional, but you shouldn't take an advantage of someone.
When you say take advantage, you know, again,
So
mm,
so by force, this person's you're a grown adult.
yes.
You can see this woman that you said I'm gonna support them through sickness and through health.
Hmm.
The point is you don't make that person sick
Okay, true. Should make them sick.
by
Yes.
overworking them.
By overworking them.
So if you have respect for your partner, you would see that this person is doing a lot
Mm.
for you, your family, for themselves. And so, as a nice human being or a kind human being, you would say, I'm going to support you, I'm going to help you.
Yeah, but I think both will be doing. I think we're getting to somewhere now. I actually like it because it feels like most of the time individuals only see the amount of commitment or the amount of things they actually put into a relationship. Because you're saying now, which I totally agree, that a woman is, cooking, cleaning the house, looking after, children, and make sure that the house is functioning. And a man will also say, I'm going out there to make sure I'm buying, not buying, I'm working my butt off to make sure that I'm providing for the house. And he's feeling like, you know I need more from this relationship as well. I need more, from the family. I need more rest and all of that, but the woman is feeling the same as well. But the thing here is, has there been an evolution of what a union was possibly 54 years, 50
Okay,
years,
50 or
ago,
40 years ago,
50 or
men
4 years ago,
were
where we had unconditional commitment.
yeah, 50 to 40 years ago, you could live off one income. A man was going to work and was providing for his family, and the woman was staying home and she was supporting the rearing of the family and providing the care, and she was looking after the children.
Mm.
Those were the rules of the games. Now the society's changed, and most people require two incomes to look after someone.
100%, yes.
So there's two people that are working.
Hmm.
Sometimes you might be fortunate enough that one person works full time and the other one works part time.
Hmm.
But in most cases, the relationship dynamic is there's two people working full time.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's two sets of incomes. You're both working at 40 hours. You should share the duties and responsibilities of maintaining a house and a family. That should not just sit on the woman. So previously, as women and boys, or girls and boys, have been socialized to be adults, a majority of society stories are that women should look after the house, clean, cook, and do everything else.
Mm.
Men haven't had that same socializing.
Mm.
So for them, it's not like some men don't even know how to wash their clothes.
I mean,
So the woman is doing a lot for the man. That's not her responsibility to raise another adult. as an adult, you should be able to look after yourself. You don't go into a relationship draining someone's resources. In some instances, and I'm not against marriages, sometimes men can be like colonizers. They go in and extract all the resources from the woman. And when
Colonizers,
and when she's tired, you'll start complaining and be like, oh, you're not doing not as much output as I'm required. That does not make sense. Just logically, you can't expect someone to do, like, they're not a mule. They can't be working continuously. And
but we men feel the same way.
No,
Men feel the same way.
If you're not supporting the growth of your household by supporting your partner, it can't just be financially.
But partner support, yes.
Are we not forgetting people's emotional?
We are. We're not forgetting emotional, right? Women are more emotional. I talk to them.
There's nothing to do with being emotional.
No,
it's to do with the person respecting the other person's emotions.
Okay.
Just because someone is providing finance doesn't mean they don't have a duty of care to support you emotionally.
100%.
This is nothing to do with a woman being more emotional than a man. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that in a relationship, a lot of the women are doing the emotional lifting of the relationship. That means the woman is providing the emotional support for herself and for her partner. And sometimes he's not reciprocating that.
Okay. So, I mean, you're pushing me, here, which is good. Chris, I told you, ladies and gentlemen, he's fire, man. But
pointing out obvious things here.
I hear you. It's the same thing I was saying earlier. When we look at one side, the women, as you're saying now, women are crying out. You're very passionate about, about speaking about how women are feeling and how women need that, emotional support, and also how they give the emotional support to the family. But the thing is, men also feel this way. They feel they need this respect coming forward. They need those respect, to.
What do you mean by respect? Please, like, when men say, I want respect, what do you, please define that, because it's such a large statement.
It is a large statement.
Are you saying you want respect for the fact that you're a man, or is it this, because if you're not providing,
that's a different story.
But you don't have to necessarily provide financially. You could, listen, some women will just be happy with the emotional support. Like just having someone to have that conversation with. Like some people are fine with that. But I want you to define what you mean when, because obviously you can't speak for every man.
I can't speak for every man.
But what do you mean by respect?
I mean, respect, yes, it's such a big word. When we look at respect, we're talking about things around, you caring for your man. We're just talking about emotional then again.
Yeah.
Again. It's acknowledging, the presence of that man, acknowledging that man is giving you, or that man is providing, acknowledging and supporting him in what he's doing.
Do you make that clear from the beginning? That's what you mean by respect.
Do you women make that clear from the beginning what they mean by emotional support?
Say that again, sorry.
The women make it clear about what is emotional support.
Sometimes they do.
I think in a relationship, this is why I go back to that unconditional commitment, because when you're having an unconditional commitment to a relationship, again, there's a caveat there. When does that unconditional commitment come to a place where you have to check it because of, abuse or some, we're still going to go into that. Hopefully have more time, a bit of time to do. Because if you have unconditional commitment in a relationship, that in a healthy relationship, you want to learn about who that individual is. What is respect to that individual? What is emotional to that female person or the woman in that relationship?
That doesn't answer my question.
You don't have to. This is what I'm saying.
You don't have to. The question was when you're saying you want the woman to respect you, what do you like?
You don't define it though.
Okay. The things that you've said, you said, what I bring, there's emotional support, or something else. You kind of highlighted a few things, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they warrant enough for a woman to be like, I'm gonna respect you? Like, because what you've mentioned is what she's doing for you. Like, there's not a we thing. So you're saying, like there needs to be like a level playing field. There's obviously you, I, and we. And sometimes people can often people, and I've done it, I'm guilty of it, being like I, but then you forget about the other person, and then there's a we.
But the thing that men don't do I.
Okay.
Men don't do I. Men always. I mean, I'm not speaking for all men, but most men I know, it's a we thing. You want to make a decision in your financial, status. For example, you're thinking about your family. You want to purchase, something big. You're thinking about your family. All those things you think about. We kind of thing. So at that point in time, it's just sometimes I think men need that acknowledgement. Okay, I mean, for the sake of not veering away from today's topic, because I can see Chris is very passionate
No,
about
I'm
stuff.
not passionate. I just
We
want
need
to
we
understand.
need to we need to we need to possibly touch on this. So we're talking about when is for better for worse. Should for worse be at any cost? In my opinion, I don't think so, because at any cost could result in death. It can result in a mental health issues. It can result in all sorts of things. But the question is, should you fight for your relationship?
If your relationship is making you ill
Mm,
and you wake up with dread, or you come home and fundamentally you walk through that door and you don't feel safe,
mm,
then you need to really sit down with yourself
mm,
and work out, is this something you can sustain long term?
mm,
Because you might love someone, but sometimes it's best to love them from a
mm,
distance than it is to stay in that space and make yourself ill.
mm,
Because being around the wrong person can either make you thrive or you will literally fight for your life.
mm. I mean, if I come back to that, the phone lines are open. It's 074 956 368 It's 074 956 368 You can call us direct on that number, or send a text, or call via WhatsApp as well. Number again is 074 956 368 Wow. I mean, should you stay in a relationship if it's, should you fight for it? You're right. I mean, if you're in a relationship and you're walking through the door and you're dreading, um, you know, going back into the environment, yes, you need to have a conversation with yourself. If you're working deliberately late, so you want them to be asleep by the time you get in, you need to have a conversation with yourself. But again,
But if you've built a life together,
that's what I was gonna.
if you have
Yeah.
built a life together, you obviously have to weigh up all the things that you've done. But
Mm,
obviously, you as an individual has to have to know what your own boundaries are, what you've set,
mm,
what you know is your breaking point.
mm,
So it's easy to say, "Oh, I'm going to stay because we've built this life together. We have all these nice things." But you can't, those things can get burnt down and taken away.
mm,
If those things get taken away and they no longer exist, and
mm,
it's just you and this person, and you have to start from scratch again,
mm,
is this the person that you want to build with?
mm, mm. I
Uh,
know, I'm sure a lot of people are listening and thinking, we're here, it seems easier said than done. Yes, it can be
Leaving
challenging.
someone is the hardest thing you'll do. The
Yes.
longer you've been with someone, the
Mm,
harder it is to leave.
yeah.
It's always sounds so like, oh, just leave them, it's fine, they're just, you'll meet someone else. No, the fish in the
No.
sea are rotten, so I don't know if you should be leaving them that quickly.
Yeah.
But in realist, like, all jokes aside, you also have to consider like your mental health. Is this person making you mentally healthy,
Mm,
or are they stressing you out? Are you stressed? Are you depressed? Are you getting sick? Are you worried? Are you anxious? If these are the reactions this person's giving you, long term, that's going to have a detrimental impact on your health.
yeah. Yeah. Can agree more. Can agree
So
more.
you want to stay and suffer, or you want to stay and thrive?
I mean, some of the factors that make people think about maybe they want to leave or not. Uh, you know, you've mentioned quite a few. If you built things together for, a number of years, you've been together for a number of years. It's harder to leave if you've been together for a number of years. And also, when we look at the family, and I keep going back to the family side, but that's one of the things that you look at the shame. You think, oh my God, it's going to bring a bit of shame on myself or on the family if I leave or break this, union. I mean, we look at people who spent a fortune on a wedding, and 2 years, 3 years down the line, that all of that investment is
Listen, if I'm spending 50, 60 bags on a wedding, I'm gonna do the maths. We're staying until the everything's paid off.
just
You want me to party for 60 grand for one day, and then you want to tell me you'll leave me after 2 years by force? You're staying here.
you stay.
You're
So,
staying.
so
I'm really sorry, but my parents will have to come in and say, "Listen, all the money that we've gone down, that's you
yeah.
just wasted on people enjoying champagne, wine, prosecco, Coca-Cola, Guinness, and jollof, all this food, and then you're telling me after 2 years, we're not even 10% of it all paid
Do
down."
you know what I mean? So in that case,
No,
that
you're not going anywhere. We're
we're,
gonna work this
we're
out.
at any cost we're staying.
At a minimum, we
Yeah.
have a minimum payment plan that we have to go. Unless someone's just gladly giving you 60 bags to go and do your wedding,
You're with, yeah, yeah.
you're staying until we pay this loan off.
You know. I mean,
I'm not footing that bill by myself.
wow,
Was
wow,
I the
wow.
only person that
Exactly.
participated in the shenanigans? No, you're
Exactly.
staying there
You're staying there.
by force. We'll go to every party like we're happy. I don't care. You're staying there. Staying.
I mean, what you said,
No, I'm joking.
no, I mean, it may sound like a joke, but I'm sure. No, okay, I don't want to say I'm sure, but it's something that could happen or it is happening, where people are, staying together because they've, gone into debt, because of a special day kind of thing, and you know, what do you say at that point? You have to try and make it work. You try and put,
Oh, so because we were now in debt that I have to stay with you. Cut your cloth according to your size.
yeah, that's a big, 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 big advice there from Chrissy there.
No, but if you have two reasonable people,
Mm.
no one ever gets married with a plan to divorce.
No, no, yeah, except you're marrying for money.
No, I don't think that's the case. Sometimes you could marry someone and they are a complete angel up until you get married. They
mm,
get married and then all of a sudden, this person turns into a devil.
yeah,
So I don't know if you can be like, it can't always, money's not always the deciding factor. Like, it's not always that. So you could marry someone, and up until that point, this person is absolutely, they are absolutely amazing. They do the right things. As soon as you get married, they turn into a complete stranger. The person that you thought you're marrying isn't the person that now shows up in the marriage. That's a whole different ball game.
mm.
Forget money. It's not everything's not always the predetermining factor. Isn't always money. That's not everyone's guiding north star.
I hear that, Chrissy, but at the moment now, it seems to be
No, it's not.
it seems to the shining light. It seems to
Yeah,
be
because we're in
what
an economy where
it,
having wealth is like it gives you a lot of status, it gives you a lot of power, it gives you a lot of respect among your peers and
yeah.
within your community. So of course most people want to acquire wealth. They want things that indicate they are of.
Do you think uh wealth would be a reason for you to stay in a relationship at any cost?
Some people will look at the lady from is it Young Rich and African,
I think that's what it's called. I don't watch
Annie
that.
and Tubaba, by force. If you're gonna, some people will have the notion, if I'm gonna suffer,
Mm,
I might as well suffer with a rich man.
mm. I mean, I've heard that saying.
If because if you're gonna suffer, are you, and people will suffer with poor men or rich men, but some people will be like, if I'm gonna suffer, let it be with a rich man,
To
because
what detriment, though?
uh, we've seen her on the television program. She don't look happy. She looks
Yeah,
stressed.
yeah.
She look like she can barely look like if you
Mm.
flicked her, she'd fall down.
Well, because of that, the fame and
And it's, and obviously you the status that comes with
yeah,
being married to certain
to
people,
certain people.
like the status of you being two Baba's wife is
Mm,
enough. But at the same time, he's disrespecting your family unit because he's having numerous children outside of wedlock.
mm.
So that is disrespectful to her and to their children. But obviously, he is a man of means. And if this was, I don't know, maybe 70 years ago,
Mm.
it would be more socially acceptable for him to have multiple wives.
Yeah, yeah. It would be. It would be.
I'm not condoning his behavior because I don't think his behavior is correct. And causing someone that much distress, it is embarrassing. Imagine you're sitting here with everyone saying, "This is my husband," and someone's knocking on your door. "Hi, madam, I'm pregnant with your this husband's child." What?
Yeah.
By force, I'll pass out at the door.
I mean, that's an example. I mean, that's an example we all know about. but I'm sure it's not unique just to her, kind of thing. So
It
sometimes,
happens to a lot of people.
yeah. So we can almost say, with a bit of evidence back there, that some people stay in a relationship at any cost because of the financial gains or
No,
the fame.
you keep on. Some people might just stay because they don't want to be by themselves.
Right. Okay.
Why is it always
I
finance?
don't know. I don't
It's
know.
not women's,
You're educated.
like everyone's always saying, oh, it's always to do with finance. I don't know who's, this is a story that's been plied on by men.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
always the men that don't have any money telling all the women that they want to stay there with,
Chris is gonna
no,
give me some money. Yeah. Okay.
no,
Yeah.
because most women are independent, they can sustain themselves, they have their own cars, they've bought houses,
Most
they
women.
don't need men to sustain their lifestyles. It is a bonus, but it's not
You know,
essential.
I think maybe you say most women. I don't know. Um, yeah. I don't know about most, but yeah.
I'm rooting for men because I'm really sorry. There's a lot of women that are looking after men, which is a topic that
Yeah.
everyone fails to understand.
We need to bring that a
A
topic
lot of
at some
women
point.
are
Yeah.
looking after men. So they're in a situation where their
Mm,
partner's lost their job
mm.
or they're having a bit of a tight spot with money and they support that man. We don't hear women complaining as much. They will allow him to, and then he'll get upset. Whatever. That's completely down to their individual circumstances. However, it's not always finance. There is people, some people just don't like being alone. Some people just don't know how to function outside of a relationship.
Mm.
It's not always money. That's not a women's deciding factor all the time. It's not the main reason that people stay.
So loneliness is a factor that people just don't want to be alone.
I don't think it's
Especially,
lonely. I think it's people are dependent on having a partner.
right. It's a status thing.
Yeah. Okay, let's, for example, you go to a party,
Yeah.
your family are doing a function, your aunties are there, you come down, you've got your cute outfit, you've had your hair done, you sit down at a table. What's the first thing your auntie says to you?
Yeah. Where's your boy? Where's your man?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first thing people will say. So imagine you've achieved all this success,
Mm.
you've got a good job, you drive a nice car, you've bought a house, and then all this auntie can say to you, ah, where's your husband?
I know. I know.
How disrespectful is that?
No comment. That's an African thing, isn't it? That's the
I don't think it's African. I
no.
think most
It's-
cultures
most
would
cultures do that.
most cultures would do
Okay.
that.
Okay. I would agree to that actually. Yeah, because there's an expectancy of you're at a certain age. You should have done this. You should have done that kind of thing. I mean, they could even ask you, even if you had a, had a man brought to the house for, was that when is it going to happen? When is all of that stuff? Okay, we've looked at different aspects of when for better for worse should be at any cost. We've looked at first of all we looked at the abuse thing. We said no, that shouldn't be for better for worse. You should make up your mind and think, you know what, this is not good for you. Where is affecting your mental health as well. Chrissy gave a great example when you think to yourself, oh my god, I'm going back to that house. um I don't want to be in that environment. You should have a sit down with yourself and think, you know what, is this something you want to live for the rest of your life as well? We also kind of like played around the different cultures as well. Is this something you can sustain? This is something you think you can work on to make it work? Because sometimes you're coming from a different culture and you're coming to another country where the culture is almost completely opposite to each other, and it's going to cause a bit of friction. Sometimes I think that the first instance is not just to throw in the towel, is find a way to try and resolve it. And and now we just really talked about the status thing. Sometimes people do it for financial gains as well. And Christian rightly pointed out, what, women don't only do it for financial gains. In most cases as well.
I don't like your tone.
I'm giving a recap, Chrissy. Don't
You
call
said they only do it for financial.
No, you said
No, there was a tone in that what you said. Like
you said
I don't believe her.
okay,
I heard your tone.
okay. She can read my psychologist as well.
I said I heard your tone. I didn't like your
Okay,
tone. I
okay.
can't read minds. I said I didn't like your tone.
Because I think you know there's a percentage who do that, but I also agree with you that there are a number of women, which actually thinking about it now, there are a number of women who don't do that because they're already financially stable
Mm-hmm.
and they need that companionship to make this.
Oh, well done. Round of applause for you.
Oh, round of applause for me.
You. We're giving some flowers to the women who are doing things for themselves.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We just get a round of applause there. Great. Okay. And also, you know, all in all, for better for worse, at any cost. We also did a joke one where you spend loads of a fortune on the wedding. You know what? You're gonna break off the wedding because of that. Who knows? But looking at everything, I think there's been a lot of evolution with the union, with the marriage, with partners living together. Because of social engineering, social media, culture change, all of that just happen. But if we look a bit on the positive side, where we think, okay, in some instance, every relationship is going to have, you know, um, a challenge at some point. But how do you manage that challenge? Again, we're not giving advice; we're just, sharing our thoughts. How do you um, find a way to resolve this challenge?
You listen to understand, not to judge.
Okay, we don't judge. We what was it?
You
Okay.
listen to understand,
Listen to understand.
not to judge.
Yeah, I mean, the things like relationship. What do you call it? Is it therapy and
Couples
counselors,
therapy.
counselors and therapists. They have that conversation.
You forget the church,
If
they
you,
do.
I mean, I don't even. I don't even want to even do that. You know, but you can have an opportunity to sit with your partner and have a conversation. And sitting down with your partner is when you are willing and you're both willing to actually make that change or have that conversation. We sometimes tend to also let outside noise come in into relationships to make us or make people have this quick thing that, like, oh, for better for worse, it shouldn't be at any cost kind of thing, because A has done it, that means I must do it as well. Again, it's your choice. But when you're making choices, make sure you make a choice for yourself, because Chris, pointed out again, sometimes you've built a huge or a life with someone. It's you've been there 5, 10 years. It's not easy to just say, okay, you know what, I'm working out of that, because you think the grass is greener on the other side. There might be no grass left on the other side, you know, because again, age is something that people forget to look at as well. I mean, Chrissy, what are your final thoughts on looking at relationship nowadays? Why is it that we're having quite a number of a higher level of divorce within the black community?
Um, I have no idea because I've not been married or divorced. So you have to be married to be divorced, and I've not done either of those. So
Okay.
I can't, I would assume, well, my when I looked at the stats, it says a lot of it was to do with infidelity.
Hmm.
And uh, I can't tell you, I can't actually give you a reason. I don't know why people are getting divorced. I think maybe sometimes people underestimate the significance of what a marriage is,
Yeah.
and do they really know the person they're marrying?
Hmm.
So, are you really asking those like core questions about your values? Are your values aligned? Like, what are your thoughts on spending money and saving money and
Hmm.
child rearing and
Hmm.
lifestyle and your long-term goals? Like, what are your are those questions that people are really asking?
Are they
Or
asking themselves those questions as
yeah, are
well?
you
Yeah.
asking yourselves?
Mm.
But as a unit, are you asking those questions? And do you have the same shared goals? Like, are you going towards the same direction?
Mm.
And also, you have to remember that as people age, they grow and they change. So the person you married isn't going to be the same person in 5 years' time, in 3 years' time, in 2 years' time. So you have to appreciate that people change,
Yeah.
and you have to respect that that person's not going to be the same person that you married. So you have to also accommodate the fact that you're dealing with an ever-changing person.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. People don't ask themselves the questions. The questions you mentioned there about, who's this person, what do they like, spending habits, saving habits, all of that, most times we don't have the conversation. This was very, similar to the program we had yesterday. But the same question, we don't ask ourselves this question as well. And I love the point you made that people change. People don't recognize change happens um, going forward. They think, you know what, this is me. Um, I've not changed, but you have changed, and the other person has changed as well. But you're not recognizing the change. I'm not making the room to accommodate that change. Sometimes this leads into conflict and all of that. Again, you know what? Doing some relationship therapy or counseling could help. Um, the question,
Okay, that in itself is a very privileged thing to say
okay,
because therapy in itself is not a cheap thing to do.
100%,
It's expensive.
yeah,
So when people say I'm going to go to couples therapy, I'm going to a therapist, it's actually quite a costly thing. So you could be paying anything from 60 to 100 and upwards to 100 and something, a couple £100 an hour.
mm.
And if your relationship's already strenuous, who's footing that bill? Are you both sharing the cost?
If I say a word now, she's gonna come for me. But
No,
anyway,
no, but these are things that people like. It sounds
no,
nice,
it is
but the
true. It's true.
practicalities of it are actually quite logistical. Like,
Mm,
are you both willing to pay, or
mm.
is one person paying for
I
the
think yeah,
therapy?
that's a conversation needs to be. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a very very important conversation there, because this is why I said both individuals have to be ready or want to make the change or work together to make something happen in a positive way. And that's a very good question about because it's not cheap. Who's paying for it? The burden cannot be on one person. Oh, you suggested therapy, so you must pay for it. That means that person is not ready to make things happen. Is not ready to make something, you know, go in the right direction, kind of thing. So you're quite right, and I totally agree with that. Again, therapy might not work for everyone.
So can I don't know. Can you go to your GP and say that we need couples therapy, and will they give that to you under NHS?
I don't know. I'm not
Because I
sure.
know you can get individual therapy,
Yeah,
but it would be interesting to know that if a couple go to the doctors and say we need therapy,
yeah.
can you get that under the NHS? Because it is as like health is impacted within a family,
Within family. Okay.
but that's just a random.
Towards the closing notes, should there be a limit to commitment? Yes or no?
What? What do you mean?
Should there be a limit to commitment in a relationship?
There should be a limit. There should be boundaries,
Mm,
but the should there be a commit? Should there be a limit to commitment?
mm,
Well, obviously, if you have a child, that's unconditional.
mm,
A partner, it's probably unconditional with terms if we're being realistic.
mm-hmm. So your answer is yes or no?
Mm, months, just depends.
It depends. She's a political individual. She's
No, I'm not. It depends. Like, you could say, oh no, I'm going to love this person unconditionally. And then you have a child and you love the child unconditionally, but are you going to love your partner unconditionally? Those are two very different.
uh, that's another topic. So does love change when you have a child?
Or you can say you're going to love a person unconditionally,
Mm-hmm.
but really and truly, I would imagine that you love your children unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
But can you really love your partner unconditionally without any terms?
Okay, I think that's another topic for another day because Chrissy's coming with them.
No, it's just a
One of
question.
no, no, it is, it is. I love the question, but I think it's a deep dive question we need to bring on.
So my question is, my answer is no, you can't love. There should be limits on commitment.
So for you, there should be a limit on commitment. Okay,
If
fantastic.
you exceed the boundaries or you break the boundaries, that would everything needs boundaries and rules. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
do whatever I
yeah.
want.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
okay.
then the other person drags you for the mud and you're like, oh, okay, it's fine.
Well said. Well said. I mean, it's been a very tough engagement, but I've thoroughly enjoyed having Chrissy on as well. I'm sure you guys have as well.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Double 9Radio family. We can't wait to have you back as well. As you can see, I've got my hands full here, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be coming for me anything I say. But on a closing note, we should always remember love should involve effort, not suffering. Because when you
Oh,
start
this one's
suffering,
been watching way too many Nollywood
oh
films.
my word, she's
Oh,
go
this.
for me again.
What is it? What do you say? Love should involve effort, not suffering.
Exactly.
This
Love
one
should not.
watching Nollywood.
Love should not
That's
be.
a line out of a Nollywood film. I
I don't
bet
know. I don't know what she's talking about.
someone has written that in a Nollywood film.
I don't know what she's talking about. Oh,
It
yeah.
sounds like you sat down in the family meeting. Ah, your love should involve effort, not suffering.
Yeah. 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 She's part of the Double Radio family. Don't worry. She's gonna be back again.
But, oh
You know.
gosh, this
But again,
Nollywood film line.
again, as I said, it should not be suffering. We should prioritize healthy love. Uh, again, we're not advising. It's just we're just sharing our thoughts. You can make the decision that's right for you. But before you make the decision, have all uh, information you need, have all the support you need to get to that point of making the right decision. Because relationships, new, old, ancient, all have an impact on your life. It could be positive, it could be negative. So you need to think about what's right for you or what's right for people around you as well. Healthy loving, you know, staying or leaving, it's your choice. But I'll leave this with you. What does for better, for worse mean to you in today's world?
That does not sound like an end of a Nollywood film. I'll give you that one. That was better.
Thank you.
That I was expecting something more profound.
Thank you.
You're a Nigerian man. I was expecting
Look at that, ladies and
some
gentlemen. Some
prose.
it's been wonderful to have you guys on the show today. It's been Kind of Expression Sunday with Krissi as our host here, and me, yours truly, Double9 on Double9Radio. Again, I want to say a big thank you for tuning in this evening, and make sure you can watch the catch up on YouTube, which will be right on later on today, and make sure you do tell a friend to tell a friend about Double9Radio. It's been amazing. It's been wonderful. But in the meantime, stay locked on, stay locked in.